Welcome to another Monday, another Mothering Wisdom Mondays, another series of this connecting in. Today I was opening to what's here for us and I wasn't getting anything very clear, and so we'll go ahead and drop in, feet on the earth, palms up to receive, taking some deep breaths, noticing how you're feeling in this moment. If you're taking a pause from mothering your children, if you're not a mother, however you're a mother of projects, if you're a grandmother, this is a time to honor the Earth Mother, the Divine Mother, all the mothers. We were all birthed from mothers, and honoring the wisdom that innately flows from a mother. And this could be a reminder or a remembering that we are wise and that women have been birthing and mothering, beyond our knowing. We can only speculate. So honoring that divine feminine energy that it really exists within all of us, whether you're in a masculine form or feminine. Acknowledging that it's okay to take a pause, to feel ourselves, to feel what's here. As a mother, sometimes, the busy, the full, the tasking would overtake the silence and the stillness. And over the years, learning, that it's okay to be still and quiet and to be, it's been a cultivation. So opening ourselves to the energies that are here, the Divine Mother energies, that ancient breath that breathed us all in here to creation, honoring our ancestors, our lineage, and honoring all of the energies that are unseen, that are here supporting us. And how important it is to, if you're here, then you're in alignment with spirituality. And I use God, spirit, creation to name, just the nameless. And how instilling that, in children, whether out in nature, where we witness miracles out in nature. It's so important to cultivate that inner knowing. And what's coming in today is that as mothers, we feel like we have to do it all. We have to nourish and nurture and raise and rear these beings. And what I have found, with including my own journey and the journey of others, other mothers, is the forgetting that we're not alone and that we're supported and connected to a greater force, and that we don't have to will our way to mothering or to being. It's simply by connecting with that divine wisdom within, by quieting down, by being still, by listening, allowing life to flow through us from that place. And that our children come in with their own soul journey, their own mission, and their own consciousness. They're born, under the stars in a new way, in the way that when the day that they're born, that's their birthday. The energies were different than our birthday. And so honoring the journey, the unique journey of our children, that we are here as facilitators, as mentors, that we are it's an honor and a privilege to raise them as the time that we do have them, and to remember that it's not an ownership, that we are borrowing them. And I really feel the importance of, that divine plan and the journey that each and every child has. And so we as mothers, doing the best, how can we be the most unconditional? How do we raise them by honoring and becoming aware of what their innate interests are, their journey, and how can we be more hands-off and not control or manipulate, their rearing. And it's not easy. It can be really challenging, especially when we're being guided by our own, on our own way, and we've had our own life experiences. But with children, they bring in, they were brought in through us, through the mother and the father, and that seed, they were seeded here through us, and that we are a portal for them and for their life and their evolution. And I know with my son that he has been my greatest guru or teacher, that being that relies and has relied on me, less and less now that he's 13. But from the beginning, they rely on everything. We feed and we nourish, we change their diapers or whatever you choose, elimination control, or we listen to what is best and their highest. And I know all the mothers in my circle, they are raising their children in new ways. And not that our mothers and fathers did anything wrong, that we're all being guided, as mothers, as fathers, as those who are keepers of these children, that are raising children. I know that there's some grandmothers and some aunties raising their children, and uncles, and so honoring, your relationship with these beings. So how to raise our children in an unconditional way, without kind of overstepping, well, this is the way that I've done it, and this is the way that my ancestors have done a certain thing for millennia, and so this is the way that we're going to raise our child. Well, sometimes there's something within us, like an alignment or something that's out of alignment, that doesn't quite feel right or in alignment with these choices. And that can be really challenging to individuate, to just say, reflect and have that awareness, and to feel that within ourselves, like this is not feeling quite right. And so what is wanting to be, expressed, and how can I raise this being in a way that is in their highest and best? And it is a journey, it's a process. It's something that just takes time to cultivate, that awareness and that listening. So closing our eyes and just tuning in to your journey as a mother, as a father, or perhaps it's your inner child, that our parents raised us with the best that they could, and honoring that journey and honoring them and offering gratitude, whether your parents were with you through this whole time from birth to 18, or maybe you're adopted or fostered, honoring each and every one of our journeys, and how, if you're an adult being now, what it took to raise you, and that it was all perfect. Those of us on a spiritual journey know that it's no longer what's good or bad. It's how do we engage and surrender. So but the surrender is engaging with life. And so what is here? And it could be a choice point of, well, everyone in my family has gone right, for hundreds of years, and I'm choosing to go left. And some people call it the black sheep, not really placing labels here, simply that there is an awareness, an awakening that happens and can happen, and something that we can't plan. There's something within us from a very young age. I remember very young, it was at our first house, it must have been under 7, just looking out my window and looking out at the stars and really feeling, that's really what I remember the most was, at 4 to 6 years old, that feeling or that sense that there's something greater out there, that is out there, not even with anything other than there's something greater. And the journey was at a very young age, and not being really aware of it until certain stages of awakening happened, when there's certain injuries and times where there is a vulnerability. And with those moments, discovering something within that was beckoning me to move in a different direction. And it did involve, moving in a different direction from friends and family. And it always had love, yet it had confusion. And so sometimes when we do move away from something that's been familiar or normal or the way, it can feel a little daunting and uncomfortable, and on the outside it may not look okay, because it challenges people's sense of their own life, and it may force them to look at parts or aspects of themselves that they're not ready to look at or in fear of looking at. And so as parents, how do we get out of the way, separating from our stuff and separating from that push of what we want our children to do or what we want them to be in the world and how we want that to happen. And how do we step back, breathe, and connect and tune in to the being that's in front of you, your child that's in front of you, that is likely choosing a whole new life. And so as a parent, will you allow that for them? Will you get out of your way? Will you get out of their way and be there, be in the love for them? That's all that children really need, is love, is to know that they're connected, that they can trust, that we can hold them in an unconditional way and manner and support them in their life. But when we start to infuse and instill our beliefs, our conditioning, and forcing them to do things that really are not in their highest, and sure, there's a difference between forcing from a place of, I want you to be a doctor, or I want you to be, ballerina, and like pushing and pushing, to sometimes we do need to encourage our children. A lot of times we do need to, invite that challenge for them in a healthy way, from an aligned way of, you may or may not agree with me all the time, and you may be upset or angry with me. I've said that to my son more often than not lately, being 13. Like, it's okay if you're upset with me, and bottom line, I'm doing this, making these invitations for you so that you can finish those loops. Those loops meaning you start a project and, just to continue, so that they start to learn to cultivate that groove of knowing what it's like to start something and to finish something. Creating that blueprint within. And so there is a difference between forcing, pushing, and a way of inviting, from that place of learning new skills and new ways, so that when they are at an age in their young adult life where they're headed in a trajectory, maybe it's moving out of the house, and maybe it's traveling the world, maybe it's going to school or picking up a trade or becoming an entrepreneur, whatever it is, that we can support them and we give them the options. We give them all the options and we support them. Even if I have a friend whose son wanted to go to the military, and she was really, in her heart, that wasn't her path, but she did everything she could to support him. And that's unconditional love. And how can we offer that to our children? By, once again, stepping out of the way. And it might take doing our own work. And a lot of times that's what it does take. It takes okay, I'm going to connect with a mentor, coach, or receive support, counseling. This is really challenging. And why is it challenging? Because generally there's a story or there's a root. There's families that I know, mothers that are very overprotective. And it's not because they're just overprotective. They have discovered and found that it has a deeper root to that. They weren't offered or provided for in a certain way, that their root wasn't able to really fully land and for them to really embody themselves. And when they were younger, they didn't have that support as a child. And so now raising children and being able to support them in every way, which could look like smothering or overtaking or whatever it is, that's suppressing, their children. And so it's really tender, it's a really tender dance of being a mother, and that it's all okay, regardless of what we're doing, if we're smothering our children or being completely hands off, that, there's also that deeper trust of knowing that they're going to be okay and they're receiving the right kind of medicine. I like to use that word, that antidote of what they need in their life, those skills to support them. And so once again, this isn't to shame or, it's just really an opportunity to, how can I support my child in the best and the highest? And am I willing to ride that razor edge and know what's mine and know what's theirs? And so sometimes there can be this unraveling or unwinding or extracting ourselves to realize, wow, is this mine or is this theirs? There's such an enmeshment, an entanglement that can happen. It's very natural, from 0 to 11 or so, 12. They're very much, reliant on us. And, then we have to grow as mothers to distance ourselves and to let them go. Sometimes I cry in the evening, just letting my son go even more, letting him go. And I have this image of standing at the water's edge, and he's on a boat or a surfboard or whatever, and he's going to the horizon. This is his life. And right now, that he's at a place where I can still walk in the water and I can still touch and I can still be there. But at some point he's going to start sailing off, and it's going to be really deep. And although I'm a good swimmer, when you're 50 miles, a few miles offshore, you have to let go. You really have to let go and let God and let be. So I think what's coming in right now is posting this beautiful poem that I'll post in the message thread after this video. And so you have to tune into that. secret. Many of you might have already read it. It's really beautiful. So I just want to thank all of you for joining me today, and to continue asking yourself, so it's not just our children, what is my stuff? What is mine? And it's a great practice. Is this mine or is it theirs? It can be with children, it can be with partners, it can be with anyone that you're engaging with out in the world, that we are energetic beings, that we are connected and interconnected by this greater web, and that we can be, some people call it empathic, we can take on. And so to keep moving the energy through our bodies, just continue breathing and embodying yourselves through dance or yoga or whatever it is. Going for walks is a wonderful way, so that you can come back home to yourself over and over again, and that we can set our children free, that we can just allow them and witness them in whatever direction that they take in life. And as long as there's these seeds of love, of compassion, of support, of communication, of trust, of respecting one another, that children will, really live their optimal life and potential by allowing them to be. So thank you so much for joining me on another Monday, Wisdom Mothering Monday. So thank you so much, and I will see you next week. Have a beautiful day.